This is episode number 261 with a man who's been painting for over 70 years, a legend, artist Harley Brown.
This is the Plein podcast with Rhoads, publisher and founder of Plein magazine. In the Plein podcast, we cover the world of outdoor painting. Called plein air, the French coined the term, which means open air or outdoors. The French pronounce it plein air. Others say plein air. No matter how you say it, there is a huge movement of artists around the world who are going outdoors to paint. And this show is about that movement. Now, here's your host, author, publisher, and painter, Rhoads.
Thank you, Jim Kipping, and welcome to the Plein Air Podcast. I'm Eric, and I am glad to be here. I hope your summer is going well. Summer tends to be the time of year when we do our plein air painting, especially if we're fair weather painters. I prefer not to be cold, but I will get out in the winter. But I hope you're having a great summer. You might be suffering with some heat. Be careful about that. Make sure, plein air painters need to wear hats. And I like to wear long sleeves when I paint. And I, of course, put sunscreen on my face because, you don't want to deal with the issues that happen if you don't. I've had a fair amount of painting this summer. It's been a really tremendous opportunity to get out and paint. I've had some friends come in and paint. Had a friend came in. We went out and found some new waterfalls and did some hiking. And, it was just really fun to carry the paints around and do some real good painting. So hope you're getting the same opportunity. Hopefully here at the Plein Air Podcast, we're inspiring. We have people listening all over the world. Thank you for doing that. We want to make you a better painter. Plus, the lifestyle for plein air painters is cool. You meet a lot of cool people, get to get outdoors and paint. People like me, I was never really super athletic, but I like to be outdoors. So, I'm not necessarily a runner. I'm not a biker, but I do like to carry a backpack and, walk through the woods and take in that, what do they call it? Forest bathing. And just get out in nature and then, do a picture and remember that. I've got a bunch of beautiful paintings. Well, maybe they're not beautiful, but beautiful to me, paintings on the wall. I also just did my very first workshop. I had a request. I decided I'd do it. I had never done it before. And it was, I had 14 people and it went swimmingly. We did a weekend and a lot of people transformed. So, who knows, maybe I'll do more of those in the future. I'm really grateful for you guys for listening to this. Without you, we would not have so many people listening, millions of downloads. And at the end of this podcast, we do the Art Marketing Minute. So don't forget that. And we also are doing more art marketing things on my daily YouTube show, Monday through Friday. We do Marketing Mondays. We do Feedback Fridays, and we're doing guest artists during the week. If you have ideas for guests, we're always looking. Just eric@streamlinepublishing.com. All right. Now, I want to tell you guys a couple of things, and we're going to get right to our guest. First off, Pastel Live is coming up. I started learning pastel because of Pastel Live, and I just pulled out my pastels yesterday because I didn't have them up here with me. I didn't have them out, and I'm getting ready to kind of dig in and get into it and play with them some more and figure out what I need to learn. And what a great opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and try something new. And when I play with pastels, I get this vibrant color and I get a different approach. I had a group of pastel artists on a call the other night where I was interviewed, and they were saying, it's really cool because pastel artists is kind of like a mixture. You can kind of create the effects of oil, create the effects of watercolor, kind of getting the best of a lot of different worlds. And so, because a lot of people will dilute their pastels with alcohol or something to create a neat underpainting. And so I never realized that before. So Pastel Live is 3 days of demonstrations from 30 top instructors. There's an optional beginners day, or what we call it essentials day, because a lot of people who are not beginners attend it. And it's a worldwide audience, including instructors from all over the world teaching, passionate people who love pastel or want to learn about pastel. And I think pastel is really a great place to start if you want to learn painting. Just learn more about it at pastellive.com. We have I have a twice annual retreat. I have one in the spring and one in the fall. Fall is called Fall Color Week, and it's sold out. But we've got about 100 people coming, and it's going to be this year at Asilomar, which is on California's Monterey Peninsula. And we're going to be painting. There's not a lot of color. It is fall out there, but we're going to be painting the ocean and a lot of beauty out there. And it's the first time we've taken Fall Color Week this far west. We did do Canada. We did Banff and Lake Louise one time. So that's as far west as we went. There's no workshops, no demos. It's just a week of painting and no lessons, but making a lot of good friends, hanging out at night. We do all kinds of things. We sing, we dance, we party, not hard, not too hard anyway. And then we paint portraits, we paint all day landscapes, and we just have a good time. The reason I'm telling you this, even though it's sold out, is that we were able to get 10 more rooms because the facility had some open up, and we grabbed them, and we have to let them know. So if you want one of those rooms, go to Fall Color Week right now, fallcolorweek.com, and register. Last but not least, well, actually not last, but not least either, Plein Air Convention is coming up in May. That's going to be in Lake Tahoe and Reno. It's doing really well. People are buying it in advance, I think, because Tahoe is going to be a popular location. I'm going to go out to Tahoe in a few weeks and just get all the painting locations put together and meet with the hotels and the facilities and you do what it is we do when we're there. So we'll make sure it's right for you. It's going to be good. Also, if you have not subscribed to Plein Air Magazine, well, duh, get it done. That's pleinairmagazine.com. All right. And we have a digital edition that has 30% more content than the print. Most people get the print, but a lot of the people overseas are getting the digital. Coming up after this special session with Harley Brown, I'm going to answer your art marketing questions. You can send your questions to me, Eric at artmarketing.com. That's a good resource for you too, by the way, artmarketing.com. So today on the Plein Air podcast, my guest is Harley Brown. Now, this was recorded during a special broadcast I did with him last week, and it was so good, I decided to convert it to a podcast as well, because it was really worthwhile. And even if you heard it before, you're going to pick up things again. Now, this was a broadcast we did to promote Pastel Live. We've removed that part of it from there, but you're going to hear a lot about a legend who's been painting for 70 years, and the essential core basics that he finds are really important in painting. Plus, he did something that he hadn't done in 50 years, and he completely surprised us. And so we're going to do that. And then also, he picked up some pastels and just started painting, which we weren't expecting. So if you're watching the video portion of this, you'll see that. But if you're not, you'll still get the essence of it. So anyway, we've got Harley Brown. He's got a book out on Amazon. It's called Harley Brown's Essential Truth for Every Artist. So let's do this. Harley's not only a friend to the art and artist, he's open to the marginalized and all who wish they could strike up a conversation. He is very generous. He's giving of his time to his friends and his fellow artists who need encouragement and support and a quick aesthetic lesson. He believes that everyone, to some extent, can learn to draw and paint and is willing to spend time to help them confirm that. That's why he's here today. He's taught in Canada, the United States, and further abroad to support fellow artists. His books are sought after because they don't just compile his brilliant art. He shows eternal truths for every artist, engaging artists through its foundational approach to art. Critics say that Harley is an inspiring painter and a mentor, and others call him a legacy. I would be one. I would say he is a legacy. We're so honored to have him today. His Confessions of a Starving Artist includes some of his impressive collection of art. Equally compelling is the raw insight of his lived experiences and the fact that art has always been the driving force behind his happiness and his success, and his books validate why he stands up. He wants to help others embrace art. That's why he's here. to find your inner vision, your imagination, and he encourages those individuals to immerse themselves into an artistic genre that will elevate their lives. He's not just an artist, he's a legend. He encourages all other artists without reservation or fear of competition. I'm so excited. Please, everyone, give thumbs up and applause. Meet Harley Brown. Harley, we're so glad that you are here, man.
And I applaud all of the people watching.
Well, this is a monumental occasion. Why is it you decided to come out of hiding to do this today?
Well, it's one of those things where you have to almost be shocked into it. Oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I didn't know I was that smart till that build-up. It's kind of a thing where you like to talk about where you've been, how you've gotten there, because there's so many, as I say, passing it on. That's what I used to do at the workshops, passing on whatever knowledge I picked up. And a lot of it I picked up strangely. You wouldn't believe it. And it's just a matter of, I think the way I got going from the beginning, if we can talk about that, when I was 7 years old, and I hope you can see this.
I'll just mention that.
Old,
okay, so the top of your head was getting cut off when we were on full screen. Maybe we can fix that. Okay, what do we have here?
Can you see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, that's a drawing my dad did in the 1930s for my mother. She loved Ronald Colman, so he did this picture of him. That was the first draw I saw when I was 7 years old. And at that very moment, I decided to be an artist.
Wow.
I didn't know artist and this and that. I knew that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I have that.
And so your dad was an artist.
He was an artist, and he kind of got me going with the sketches and so on, the things that little doodles and such, through the schools. And in fact, in the schools, in the high school I went to, even the teachers understood my idiosyncrasies. When I was supposed to be sitting there doing this and that, I was drawing pictures on the pages, and they'd walk by. And eventually they started giving me money to go to a movie theater. I passed all the grades, but if there was a Latin class or chemistry, go watch a movie, Harley. And then I went out and got a job after grade 12. I don't know if you want all this. This is a very.
Oh, we do. We want to hear it all.
After grade 12, I went out and worked at a display company. And my dad, I was working there every day, $150 a month. And my dad sat down in front of me one evening and he said, "Harley, do you like," I said, "I love art. Do you like art?" "I love art." He said, "I'm going to give you a choice right now. And you got 5 minutes to come up with the answer. You can go back to work and do this, but I'm going to start charging you rent. Or you can sign in tomorrow to the art college for 4 years, and you're here for 4 years and pay nothing. I'm giving you 5 minutes." Within 1 second, I said, "I'm signing up to the art college." And the next day I told the boss, he said, "You artists don't make a living. You'll be back here begging for the job." Anyway, I did go up to the art school, and it was quite an amazing, I can tell 3-hour stories about the art college and what it did.
What was the art college? Where was it?
It was in Calgary, at the College of Art up there, the Southern Alberta Institute of Art and Technology. And that's where I went, and that's where I got my first kind of grounding, and along with my dad. And I started for the first time looking at, I had always the years, Rembrandt and so on. The one picture that stuck with me, and to this very day, the Mona Lisa. And of course, portraits by Rembrandt. And there's a lot to be thought about those. There's more than just portraits and figure drawings.
What do you mean?
Well, how he did those portraits, the angles, the shading. And of course, that's one of the better, if you really want to look at those, lost edges, soft edges, lost edges. The lost edges where dark hair would go into the background or the shadow under the neck. A baby understands lost edges because when you're a child, you see your mother coming in the dark room to give you whatever, bring something, and all you see is light and dark. All the dark is the edges are gone. So when you're a baby, you understand all of these things. So an artist doesn't have to put in the edge to make sure okay, that's the cheek edge. The cheek can go into the shadow as soft right there from the light to the dark. And often the artists say that that one little place where the light goes to the dark is the richest color. It's neither in the lightest light and the darkest dark. It's a rich, if it's a cheek, it's a little rosier there, then it goes into the dark. I don't know how lighting is.
Some people call that the bedbug line.
Well, there we are. But there's I could go on with my life. Clint Eastwood, if I can quote him, my life is loaded with coincidences that happened. Most you would not believe, but a lot of it has luck to coincidence, right time. And I remember Clint Eastwood was asked, Mr. Eastwood, did luck have a lot to do with your career? And Clint Eastwood said, absolutely. He said, but when it happens, you better be prepared.
Yeah.
And
so before we get into the 7 essential truths, what I'd like to understand, Harley, is what were a couple of the seminal moments in your career? Because I think that there are a lot of people watching who would love to take it to the next level in terms of being able to make a living selling their art or having a belief in themselves that they can even do it. What were a couple of the moments that kind of transitioned you to being, you're out of school, out of art school? What then transitioned you to being able to kind of make it?
I can make this into a kind of a simple thing. Erase the word hope. Use that if you say, I hope grandma gets better, but don't hope for yourself. Do. And I'll explain that. The teachers at the school said, Harley, we're not going to do it. They said the last year I was doing portraiture, certain ways of it. And they said, you'd be doing yourself a favor by, going out and on your own. So they led me out the door, and I want to thank them for that. I was out in the parking lot, and I looked at the city, Calgary, and I said, okay, it's me and you. The next day, and I said, at that moment, I am going to be an artist, period. That was it. I wasn't going to hope. I was going to be. And the next day, I went and got a peddler's license and started knocking on doors. Bang, bang, bang. Hello, I'm an art student. And I'd show pictures and they'd slam the door. 35 doors. And finally, I got the first door, $1 profile portrait. And it just came from there. So you have to be absolutely committed that you're going to be an artist. And also with that, keep the prices low, bend over backwards to please whoever you're selling to. That's the first moment. That gets erased very soon after. But you have to start low. You never want to lower your prices, but you can raise them. My first profile portraits in bars, they were 50 cents a piece in the saloons and at the fairgrounds, but they went up to $2, $4, and then $35 and so on.
Well, you got to tell the story about what you discovered painting at a bar.
How I discovered?
No, what you discovered.
Oh, that is so special. Always doing sketches, 9B pencil, people in the bar, and they fold them up and put them in their pocket, the portraits. Anyway, one time I got I think it was 8 or 10 pastels, just cheap little things. There's chalk. And I thought I'll do pastels this time in the bar. And I started with my pad and I started putting down colors. And my head started buzzing. And I do mean it was buzzing. when I was putting down these strokes, and then I'd rub it a bit, and then I could put another stroke on top. Totally brand new feeling for me. And I was actually shaking, and I was doing one portrait after the next. Not good, let me tell you, because I was still getting used to how it worked, the feel of it. That day, that night, the next day, one day was oils and pastel, the next day, oil and pencil, and the next day, pastel. I went out, I think it probably borrowed money, went out and got a whole set of all the different colors, got the paper, got everything from the art supply place, and from that day on, mainly pastels, 98%. Once in a while, somebody wanted oil, I'd do it. But the pastel excited me beyond. I cannot tell, well, you pastel artists know what I'm talking about. And from to this day, to this very day, when I set up and do a pastel, I'm as excited now as I was that first #1 day.
So let me ask you a couple of questions about that. Do you still do anything other than pastel? Do you paint in oil or watercolor?
I did, I did a watercolor, did several watercolors, but that's another world, another world. And once in a while, if somebody really wants an oil, but God, I think in the last 2 years, I think I did one oil or two. It's all pastel now. I live and breathe pastel, and I got every make in the world.
So I have a theory, and I'd like to get your opinion on this theory. You know, people are always asking me, we have a lot of people who watch who say, you know, I want to learn how to paint. And, you know, I always kind of started them out with, okay, you need to learn values and so on and drawing. But what I realized is that if somebody's attacking paint right away, I remember when I was trying to learn oil paint, it was totally intimidating because I didn't know what kind of oils to use or cleaners and all that stuff. And of course, I now am an oil painter and I now know it. But I think, you know, the idea of mixing colors is kind of intimidating, you know, chemicals and mixing things with a brush and laying it on. And I'm wondering, I kind of think that as an artist, a starting place, because we all played with crayons when we were kids. And I think pastel is like adult crayons, right? It's more vibrant, it's pure pigment. It really does vibrate. And I think that that's a really great place to learn to paint for the first time. And then of course you're going to get to the next level and the next level by learning how to layer and mix the colors on there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know about starting off with pastels. I did crayons, of course. But what I loved about pastel, you get the colors right there, grab it, bang. You could you don't have to wait for drying and this and that. And you put another color on top. It's just a matter of how it does things that takes a little more time mixing the right, you know, with the oil paint. And I did like oil paint at the time. I got a couple here that I'll show you that was the same. My pastels are almost the same technique, but you know, brushwork and so on. In fact, I have right here, a self-portrait. You may get a laugh out of this. This is my serious day with oils. Do you see it?
Can you hold it up a little higher? Wow.
That was serious Harley. You know, when you're an art student, you have to have that serious look.
You look like a movie star.
Going in, well, I don't know about that. But that's an oil, and I just blobbed it down on there. And then here's another one. I'll show you. And it's the same technique as I do with pastel. I did this a while ago.
And that's an oil?
And that's an oil.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you. So it's that kind of a thing that, and then here's another more refined oil. Just throw it on the floor.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So, you know, that's an oil that, you know, there's a certain thing about oils that are great fun.
Well, I think that what I also have found is that a lot of the great artists dabble in a lot of different things, because there's a moment when oil might be more appropriate than pastel, which might be more appropriate than watercolor. I have found since I started doing these online events, I felt obligated to learn these other mediums I wasn't painting in. And I find like I'm freer, right? So now I'm able to do pastel, I'm able to do watercolor, I'm able to do oil, I can do gouache. And these things have really stimulated me, get me more excited about painting overall, because sometimes you get bored and it's nice to have something to kind of get you reinterested.
Well, I'm a one-track guy when it
Are
comes
you?
down. Yeah,
What?
with my medium, it's strictly to me. I love doing pencils uh, as well. Anything along with that immediacy
Yeah.
of what you do with pastels. I can do a pastel, roll it up. In the good old days, when I had big shows I had to do, I rolled it up and sent it off to the dealer, and they would frame it. Uh, I just like the whole feeling of the pastel.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
and with the people watching this, uh, with pastel, if everybody watching this had the same face, the same light and shadow, and had the same face in front of them, everyone would be slightly different. It's like we have different
Fingerprints.
fingerprints and features of our
Yeah.
own face. We have different personalities. All of these things come out, and the beauty is that we're all different, and we should allow that. When I was young, I was influenced by Rembrandt and so on, and looked at their work and how they did this and that. And people would say, "Oh, you don't want to." Certain people would say, "You don't want to copy him, this and that." And it was maybe like a surgeon learning from a brilliant surgeon, going forward. But you eventually your heart gets into it so much, your confidence comes in, and your own self comes out onto the paper. People maybe didn't know it was a Harley Brown years ago. I don't know. I've never asked. But you can sure see that it is now. A lot of people go to art shows and they can spot mine from the other side of the room. So to become yourself, it takes a little while. Like when you're going through all the schools and the different levels, as you get older, you shuck aside all the things you think are cool and you become yourself. And that confidence comes also with your drawing and your working out values. And I think values is on the top of the list.
Okay, well, this is a good way to transition into the list of the 7 essential truths. So let's talk about values.
Well, values, everybody knows light to dark. And if you screw up values, no matter how well you draw with the reflected light, with the shadows, with the background, all of that lights and darks. And I would suggest that anybody who's a little off on that, concentrate deeply. If you're working from photographs or real life, make sure that you're getting those values right. Sometimes the dark looks darker if it's next to white, and the same other way around. Sometimes when a face is really light, the shadow looks darker than it really is. Sometimes I'll get a piece of black paper or something like that and put it next to the neck or from the distance. The light is often not quite as white as we think it is. A lot of people will put the highlights too light. So values, let's connect that with one thing. An artist friend, Donald Teague, friend of mine, the final thing I ever heard from him, I said, "Give me one word that I can take with me," as I hopped into my car. And he yelled out, "Design." And design can't be design without values. And the number one, you can draw all sorts of wonderful stuff, details, this and that. Oh, that's wonderful. But it doesn't build up as a great painting without design. And he said that to me, and it's stuck with me. And you can do a wonderful head or a figure, but if somehow the background and the foreground aren't worked into like angles and maybe the horizontal and vertical, for stability and turnings and this and that, and having something in front, like for depth, you have the hand in front, you have a cat in your hand, you have somebody standing in front of a house, you have a building in front of the mountains or whatever, causing depth in a painting. And you have to understand that the value, say, of a mountain is much grayer and lighter than if you were standing right up against them. So the further away things go, the colors are grayed down slightly. You've got to be very careful about that. So that whatever's up close, a red apple would be a red apple. And then far in the distance, the person would not have big rosy cheeks and all of that. You would kill them. So that's all the depth area. But the values, you have to understand the values from close up to far away. And the value, when you look at a hand, you see the different things on the hand. A lot of people, when they do the light side of the face, then start putting that light part into the reflected light on the other side, which if it really is, okay. But most cases, the reflected light is down a bit, and it's not all the same. The reflected light may be lighter up here. So some artists will just go jump, 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 jump with the reflected light. If anything you take home with you or whatever is here, lighting on a figure, a face, can be drawn like crazy, wonderfully drawn. But the values on the face, the cheeks, the neck, the forehead, the arms, the folds in the shirt, the white shirt, red shirt, whatever. You can simplify. You don't have to make it photographic. In fact, many people say, I don't do realism. It's like a photograph. And I say to them, I'm not a camera. I'm an interpreter. Yeah. And much in the same way with the piano. People play exactly what Rachmaninoff wrote. Vladimir Horowitz played his third piano concerto, or piano concerto, the way he would play it, his interpretation of exactly those notes. An artist, as I was saying, if you had the same model in front of you, you couldn't help but make it yours. So it's not a photograph at all. It's a combination of subject and artist. Remember that, subject and artist.
Well, and so make it yours, I think is really important too. It's interesting. We have the plein air convention, and we'll be outside, and there will be 1,000 artists painting the same view, and every single one of them interprets it different. And it's so wonderful to see, and you see ideas that you've never thought of.
Absolutely.
Okay, so values is one of your essential truths. What's next?
Subjects. John Singer Sargent did a painting with just posts in it. Brilliant. There are artists that will do complex things, but without the design, the subject will flatten, be uninteresting. You walk through a gallery. Most people, when they walk through a gallery, they look around, and the subject could be interesting, but if the design, in sometimes color, but if the design is not there, subject, I have always figured, and I've tried to prove it to myself, any subject can be interesting. It depends on what you do with it. Like the plot of a movie. You can do a plot of a movie in one paragraph, but it depends on that plot right there that makes the music or the movie, it makes it work. You should be able to cut it down to just a few sentences. And the same way with the subject. If you want the person just to sit there with the hand, like that, or looking to the side like this, or just looking right straight. I have done it sometimes with the person, the subject, looking right straight at me. But what I would do around that person was what counted. But the subject, I say this, subjects are wide open to everything.
All right. So what you're saying is don't rely on your imagination, rely on your subject.
People should not use their imagination. When I'll tell you, I've done art all my life, but I will not fake an I'll stress them maybe. But if somebody took off and I hadn't finished off the nose area, I guarantee you I'd make a terrible job putting in that nose with the shadows. It would look fakey. It would look. One example was when we were out painting the ocean, and the artist got tired of putting in the pebbles and rocks, and he said, "I'm going to finish it off in the studio." So he did pebbles and rocks in the studios. Everybody looking at it said, "What the hell is in that?" You know, he was trying to do them out of his head. I say this, with something representational like this, do not try to do it out of your head. Go and see those rocks. Go and see that forehead, the hair, even the hair. Don't fake it. Work from life or photograph.
So you've done a lot of plein air painting over the
Well,
years.
a lot of people, you can let things disappear, in the background and so on. You don't have to put all the details in this. But if you use imagination, you're ahead of me.
Okay, but you did get out and do plein air painting, is that correct?
I have over the years. Okay, I'll show you this. I did this this was a painting in the coast of in Mexico. A quick can you see it?
Yeah, we could see it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that was a quick. I've done my life when I had lots of activity and energy. Us artists would go all over the world and paint. We'd get people off the street and have them sit in a studio somewhere, even the workshops. There was a fellow in the Fiji walking by with a mule, and we asked him if he would stand there with his mule, and we did some quick drawings of it all. Working from life is, I've always felt that a novelist has to live life to put in the words, make it an interesting, real novel. And an artist, I think working from life is so important. Not all the time. I work from photographs, but working from life. Oh, here's one I did of in Trafalgar Square, the lion.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I did it different, I don't know if you want to see it. Oh, there's one I want to show you here. I did a lot of these. That's okay. Just let them go. Let them go.
We're getting some unexpected pleasures today. This is nice.
Well, bring that girl over on the left.
In case you guys are just tuning in, our guest is Harley Brown, and he's going to be going through 7 essential art truths, and he's showing us some work right now while he's gathering those up.
Here's one that shows a lot. This is done from life in at one of my workshops. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, now this was done very simple tones. Now, if we can do a close up there, can you see her face?
Yes, we can. Lift it up just a little higher. There we go.
Okay. Now her face is literally 2 values.
Right.
And it shows her expression. So in other words, your expression can be very simplified with, this is pastel, of course, and she was sitting there, and of course it takes a little bit of tiny work to it, but you see the simple values throughout the whole figure, and yet the personality is there. So in other words, I didn't have to put all the details in.
All right.
In fact, let me just show you. I don't know if this can, no, I won't, it's too big. I was going to show you a portrait here in 2 values.
Okay.
And this, I may have to stand, I may have to stand back with this, but this is the perfect example of values. This is,
Okay.
now, I hope all this moving around is okay.
Yep, we're cool with it.
Perfect.
Brendo.
Exactly. And all you need is that value and that value. Two values and you know. See how individual. Everybody watching this has that same great, grand thing about them, is that we're all slightly different. And like you say, you can tell it's Marlon Brando.
Outstanding. Okay, so let's get back to our 7 essential art truths, because I know some people have limited time. I want to make sure we cover those. So you said values, and you said relying on the subject. What else is next?
Oh, what would you like to think? Well, value, subject, design. We talked about design, I think.
Design. Okay.
If you want to really understand why Rembrandts are so good, is because the design he put in, not just the faces and the expressions in that, but the design he put into those are phenomenal. Look at those. Look at Feshion's work, Serov. But another thing, while we're talking about design, another thing, of course, is color. Now, let me put it, the Munsell color theory, everybody should get, period. Color in the Munsell color theory is 5 colors. Red, yellow, green, blue, purple. Not orange, red, yellow, green, blue, purple. Orange exists, but do it even. Red, yellow, green, blue, purple. In other words, the opposite of red is blue, green. Turquoise, blue, green. Not green, because green is too warm. Blue, green is cool enough for the red. Better. Many of the great artists of the turn of the 1900s, the late 19 in the 1900s, in the early 1900s, started to get into this. And also think in this term with color. Make a painting with value should not be equal light and dark value. It should be either mostly mid value, a lot of it dark value, kind of a dark street scene, or light value with some dark in it. But it should not be equal values. And the same with color. It should not be equally light, cool and warm. You see often with the French Impressionists, the cools with the skies, the mountains, the trees, the grass, and then they may put in a red barn. Now, all of these things I say, you can cheat on a little bit. The thing you cannot cheat on a bit is the design. So colors you can throw, and don't put colors on just for the sake of putting on colors. There's colors that are grayed down maybe at far reaches of the, where there's the greens there, but you kind of make them less intense. And when I'm doing a portrait, the richer colors are generally around the head, and they cool off a little. Sometimes I'll maybe cool it off as the cheeks go back. But color is important. And the Munsell theory, I picked that up a number of years ago, and it was, whoa, baby. It's not just somebody handing you a theory. It's a kind of a theory that means so much when you're starting to work it. You say, whoa, this is working.
Okay.
And, so color.
All right. So I have my list of truths. The next one is universal principles. Will you talk about that?
Well, principles, universal. I don't exactly understand what that is, other than I think that principles.
It says anything we paint, the principles are basically the same.
Exactly. If I do a horse, I have one there, a horse's head, or if I do a still life.
Lovely.
I don't know anything about horses or lions or dogs or mules. I've done burros galore. Okay, this is a good one for you. I know nothing about anatomy. I don't know the anatomy of the face, but I do know light and shadow, shapes. So the thing is, if you can draw, and I think that people should take the time to be accurate. Accuracy is the most important thing when you're doing a portrait or a building. If you get it sloppy at first, you're going to have to fix it later, but you're going to have to fix it more complex. If the eyebrow is too high or the nose is too wide, you're going to have to paint it out and put it in. So get the accuracy first. Now, accuracy doesn't mean artificial intelligence or something like that. Accuracy means your accuracy. When I'm doing a personal portrait, it takes 3 times longer because it's a very specific face that I'm doing. Most of the time, a lot of the time, I will take a face and be able to push this and that and the other thing. But it is accurate in a human, personal way. So anything, people out there, if you can draw whatever, a dog, a bull, whatever you do with light and dark and shape and that, you can draw anything. If there's people that can only do still life or just did still life most of their time, please go do a human face.
Okay, now talk to me about the illusion of depth.
Well, the illusion of depth is, like I say, when something's in front. My hand's in front of me, my head is back, my hand may be a little bit larger, the face may be a little slightly less detail, not necessarily, but as I say, things that go back, the illusion of depth, meaning graying down, killing the rich colors as things go into the distance, like the mountains, as I say. When you're doing landscape, the foreground, the rich, maybe a cabin or something like that in the foreground. And rather rich color, but as it goes far. Or depth is when there are some people together and some are behind others. It just gives the illusion of depth. And I think that's important, that the feeling of depth, without having a 3D camera. When you're looking at, for instance, once again, Rembrandt, or any of the great artists, figurative artists, when they have people in the distance and the people in the foreground, that is depth.
Now, you also on your list of essential truths, you put understanding edges. You talked a little bit about that when you were talking about Rembrandt. Do you want to get into a little bit more, excuse the expression, depth with the edges?
Well, can we somehow?
What do you want?
Can we
What one?
get? Let's see, that portrait. Okay, that portrait of me. Not
Hey, you
that
guys, we're going to get to your questions in a few minutes. If you just hang in there with us, we also have some prizes we're going to give away.
Okay.
So just hang in there while they're getting this painting ready. Okay, now we have, ooh, that's nice.
Guess who that is? Look
Wasn't
at that.
that on the cover of your book, or wasn't that part of an article or something you wrote?
That was kind of me looking. That other one, a little bit
Paranoid.
friendly and a little self-possessed. Here's me, just Mr. Nice Guy. But see the edge, how soft it is going into the background? And the edge.
Can we hold that a little closer to the camera? There we go. Good. All right. Yeah, you can see that disappearing edge there. That really has form, 3-dimensionality. Okay, good. Now we'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, and putting in the shirt, can you still see it?
Yep.
Okay, now here, all that warm, put in a little bit of cool, but I naturally do that. It's almost like I don't want it all hot. I want something like that. And now you don't see all the hair on the whiskers. It's just shapes, but you know that that's a beard, a goatee, and there are whiskers there. You see now the forehead brightest, and then things go down a little bit. I put in the glasses, not exactly all around, but highlights, that's all you need. Little highlights, maybe a little edge here and there. The shadow going down the side, and then this reflected light, which is a cool light. There's the warm side, and that's kind of got a green cool look to it. So you see the difference in values. You see the design, boom, and then going up here for stability, movement down there. And the fact is, that light against that dark, very sharp. Once in a while, you want to do that in a painting to make sharp areas. There it kind of fuds out a little bit. But the edge of the whiskers there and the side there, slightly sharp, a softer right in there. Teeth are tough to do, let me tell you. You really got to spend time with them. Don't make them look like false teeth. And the ear, a little lighter there, shaping it, taking my time. And you see where the head does go, fades right into the background there, fades right into the background there. So there. Oh, and as you see, it's warm there. The cheek is warm there, and it goes into the back. It's cooled right off.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Okay, so understanding edges is an essential truth. You also have getting it right from the start. Now, you talked about that earlier, but let's just go a little bit more depth on that. You said don't be sloppy.
Don't get sloppy. Bring the tuba.
The tuba.
Don't get sloppy. With it,
are you going to play the tuba for us?
Look at. Can we do the
Piano?
Yeah, I want to show you something on the piano. Look at this. Can you see this?
Yeah.
That's the one and only tuba I ever done. But I had to be absolutely accurate with it. And it's a bit of a piece of art, I guess. But, with the shapes and all, this, I had to be extremely accurate with all of that. Down in there. Can I do the piano to show you the similarities?
Yeah.
It's like George Balanchine. He does this choreography, but the ballerina puts her own into it. Now, I'm going to show you with the piano. Can we do this?
Yes.
Okay. I hope this works.
We're getting to see a lot of art today. This is very exciting.
Okay, now when I started out, can you see?
Yeah.
When I started out, it was then the chords, everything, all of that. And then I had to learn, that kind of stuff. I've learned all of that, and then I've learned it all. And as time went on, I got confidence. And my confidence kind of, I played piano, I shouldn't say.
You're 85, Daddy.
I played piano in a brothel.
Oh.
This is a classic moment. Wow.
You learn, so what you do is you learn the techniques. You learn with everything. When you're writing, when you're doing art, whatever you do, you learn the basics. Then you go into I haven't played the piano, believe me, I have not played the piano for 50 years. I quit playing in my 30s, and now I play Happy Birthday for the family, And then, but there's other things that, when I was going to art school, it was people like Brubeck that impressed me. So I went through areas, concerts, Beethoven, his second piano concerto. Those things that just thrilled me. So I've spent massive amount of times with art, massive amount of times with my music. And drove my parents crazy. And the teachers knew it. Everybody knew that there was a nut in town, and but I loved it. And incidentally, this is kind of a weird part. I was very, very shy, and I won't give you the story on it because it's too long. I became unshy in 1 hour when I was 19 years old.
What happened?
I had my first drink, and I became total eccentric. I did things that so eccentric that when I was married, I saw in a newspaper 3 words: Londoners are eccentric. I sold everything in the family. We moved to London, England for 2 years. Went to the Camberwell School. I was there. Things like that. That there it is. I won't give you the details, but there was a film company wanted to do something about my life, dramatize it, and they saw my book Confessions, and they said these are the very words. They said, "Mr. Brown, Harley, your life was much too bizarre and nobody would believe it." And when I stopped drinking at 35, I then had confidence. So I didn't go back into shy, but I was no longer invited to parties. And I had nothing but time to develop my art. And I worked at it and had luckily, and a gift from heaven, I had one of the major artists in the States phoned me up. He happened to accidentally see one of my pictures and invited me to a big art show in the States. And it went from there. I was able to follow through. So like Clint said, we have lucky things happen to us. Fortunate things happen to us. We better darn well be prepared when they happen and make them happen. The big thing is, do not hope. The main thing is do. If you're going to be an artist, be an artist. We got this one life, and that's what my decision was. There was a little while when I was a teenager that I wanted to one day play in Carnegie Hall and have the women look at me. I was that shy.
Well, what I want to do, Harley, is go through, just repeat the essential truths from the list that I've made here. One is rely on the subject. Don't rely on your imagination. Universal principles that anything we paint are basically the same. Illusion of depth. Accuracy is important. Color. You talked about Munsell. Design, and find value in values. Understanding edges, and then getting it right from the start. And I'm told that we've got a couple of bonus ones that you threw in there. One of them was excitement. Talk to me about letting your excitement show through your paintings.
Well, the excitement can happen, but you have to earn it. And at first I had an alter ego. That's something else. I did have an alter ego, and I can't get into him, but he did exist. No, he did exist. Well, I wasn't prepared. Well, oh
well, let's not go there then, because we've got a limited time, and we want to make sure everybody.
But okay. What was the question again?
We talk about excitement showing through your paintings.
Excitement is, you have to work at it. You're going to go through these serious times where you're really, but as it will slowly and really develop, very slowly, sometimes a little faster, depending on how much you put into it. But I was very kind of caught into what I was doing with a rather serious nature. But as time went on and I understood the lights and the values and the design and all of that, I felt inside of me glowing, radiating. And as time went on, and I felt this feeling, just rapture. And so even to right now, when I'm doing the excitement that I feel, you can see if somebody wants to get up close to it, they say, whoa, was he caught up in that one?
How do you, if you're not excited about your work, you're stuck. How do you pull yourself back to excitement?
Okay. I do a lot of, if I'm working on a big thing, it's a lot of labor. Oftentimes I will go to bed, and before I do some sketches, quick little sketches. You can't buy happiness. You can't find that you're going to get happiness going to a movie and that. You have to earn it. But in one way that I did when things were not perfect for me and things were going downhill, I do a sketch, and I promise you that would be like taking a happy pill. Do a few of them. Don't try to get, it's just for yourself.
Great
and
idea.
Then do 2, 3, 4, and do something that you've never done before. Get that old vacuum in the corner, or a pot, or a flower, whatever.
Yeah.
And like I say, that is the happy pill. And boy, I can guarantee the people watching this right now tonight, get a pad out and do a quick sketch while commercials are on.
Okay, so next on the bonus truths, we have attitude. The greatest obstacle to most people isn't skill, it's attitude. You want to talk about that?
My attitude changed over time. My attitude was, I'm going to be an artist. An attitude, I guess, I wonder if that means also with your attitude with other people. And your attitude in life. And my attitude, but I never condemned myself for anything. I never looked down on myself for anything. I tried to do what was right for me. My attitude was, I have to say, ego-driven. And I think a lot of people saw my attitude as, they would never know my insides, but they'd look at me as very nice, gentle type of guy. But within was an absolute flaming dragon. And that was for many years. Now I've settled down a bit. It used to be that I'd go to Russia or Spain. Now I go to the grocery store. And so my attitude goes all over the place. If anybody watching this, you've got to get yourself some pads and get yourself some 9Bs, get kneaded erasers, and just have the joy of doing that. And that next day, and also make sure when you're going to bed that you solve some of the problems that you have with your work, so that when you get up, you feel, well, I've got that okay. Oftentimes, if I'm down on a picture, I'll walk away and come back to it. In those few moments, my brain cells somehow resolve it as I look at it. Oh, I see what's wrong. Da 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 da.
Yeah, step away. Okay,
Yeah.
so the last bonus truth we have is don't paint for others. Talk to us about that.
Okay, now I cheated on that at first. When I wanted to make the door-to-door, one person had me come in and do a mural on the wall for $35. So I cheated a bit in doing what people wanted. I want to get my mother, would you paint me a rose, Harley? I did, so I sold myself out, but I was still doing art. A lot of people looked down on me as having selling my soul type of a thing. And at the time, I didn't understand all of that, but I kept on doing it. And as time went on, I have done paintings just for me. I won't explain them all. I've got stacks of paintings just for myself. I would do paintings, if a gallery wanted a specific bunch of paintings, I would go through what I've done that would be good for them specifically. For many years, I did indigenous individuals. I lived in Calgary near the Sarcee Nation. I did a lot because they were right near me, within blocks. And I did portraits, of course, nudes. I did hundreds, maybe thousands. And all of that I did, I say this to people, do not think, are they going to like this? Do not think that way. Are the viewers of the art, are they going to accept what I'm doing here? Be damned outside. When you're in the studio, when you're outside painting, it's you and your subject. Nothing else gets in your way.
Great, great advice. Harley, are you ready for questions?
Depends. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So,
Harley, do you,
If it's about art, fine.
Harley, do you remember your first set of pastels? Do you remember what they were?
I think they were Rembrandt, way, way back. I think that's what they were. And I went through many, many, I have right now every brand in the world.
I think a lot of us are going to be jealous of that because everybody would love to have all the pastels in the world.
It was Sinelli, the French, the Talons. I'm just trying to think of. Every one that you can think of. I have right now. Believe this or not, if I was encompassed in this house, I have enough pastels. If I lived another 30 years. So there.
Wow, that's quite the collection.
So buckets.
So our next question is who were the artists that first inspired you, and are there any artists that inspire you now?
The first artist when I was 7 was my dad. Give him my heart. And then I went on to, of course, Rembrandt, I would have to say, is amongst the first. And the early Russian artists from the late 1800s and early 1900s. There's so many now. The cowboy artists, Frida West, a lot of those artists are just, to me, right now, I'll say this. I think right now we are going through a classic, grand, great era of art. I'll put the art right now, many of the paintings of right now, up along with any of the old masters. It's not like they're all from the past. Right now, we're going through a phenomenal time of great art. One after the other. Some my heart, So there we are.
That's great.
I don't know if that was.
No, that was great. So our next question is, what surface do you usually paint on, and have you ever made your own surfaces?
The only surface, good question. Well, here's one that I did of a still life. I work with, how I start. Is this okay? This is how I start. Like that. And then I rub it down like this, I may put some all over, and then, I'll just start.
do me.
What kind of paper is that, Harley?
Canson. Canson paper.
You make it look so easy.
Oh, we'll give him a beard. Let's put a hat on him.
I want to tell you guys this was unplanned. We didn't know he was going to do a demo. This is really terrific. Hang in there.
Then you put a white collar there and so on. Then of course you can, which I won't do, then you can start putting in, the lights and so on.
So that goes into my next question, which is color temperature in shadows and highlights. How do you decide what to do for those?
Well, for instance, the shadows, as they come in there, I'll probably, even with the female, I'll sometimes cool it down on the side there. And the ears, I don't make those as rich, but there's areas that I'll cool. Men generally cooler down in there. And then, of course, the hat and the hair, there's a lost edge right there. This is in shadow up here. Big, tough guy.
So the last question we have is, when you were talking about getting it right from the start, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Lynn says that she finds that when she gets towards the end of her painting, it didn't quite turn out as planned.
That's why when you get it right, get that nose, the right length, get all of these details, the width of it, where the mouth goes, from there to there, all those things, get them right, and get the shapes right. The get it right from the beginning. I made this too fast. I should have done a little bit slower, but it's just kind of a quick little bit of fun. It's just two values on the face. This.
Janice wants to know what your feelings are on sanded paper.
I used to use it almost all the time, but I use that only now for little children because sometimes the texture is not the texture of this is better for grown-ups. But I use sandpaper. I used to use it almost all the time.
And do you work from life or do you work from photos when you're doing your portraits?
Mostly photos. I used to almost all the time work from life, but now I don't run around in that. I take photographs of people, but now I work mostly from photographs.
Well, I'm going to have to have you do my portrait for the magazine. All the other greats have done it. So
Got it.
I'll show up in your living room.
Harley, I have one last question for you is, do you use fixative?
I do, and I use it at the first part. That's a good question. I use the fixative at the first part when I'm working, for instance, here, if I want to build on top. But I do not use it at the end because it kills the color and a lot of it. But the very first part, yes, very lightly, and then I can work on top if it's a rich color, or if it's a color that I've laid on, rather than have it mixed with the color I'm putting on, I have it fixed so that I can give a good, clean sweep.
Wonderful.
Harley, I think that we're probably coming up on, we're an hour and 50 minutes. I think probably we should call this to an end, but this has been phenomenal. I mean, first off, I learned so much from you today that I had never heard before. And as you know, I know a lot and have interviewed a lot of artists, and I never knew you were going to play piano, and I never knew you were going to paint for us. So this is like, you're just like getting lots of gold stars today, man.
Well, I thank you.
Harley, do you want to give us a couple of final words of inspiration?
Well, I guess I'm on social media, Insta and Face, But I let all my emotions out on those. But I say to the artist from now on, and I know there's many of you, know that you're an individual. Know that you're very unique. You don't have to copy. You start off maybe copying like the beginning surgeon, but then you become yourself. Yourself is very powerful, more powerful than you think, especially as you're developing your art. And it will become you. And you're much more wanting to go back to your easel. It's not an easier and create more. And if there's, I'm trying to think that there's, if there's one thing that you learn from my good friend when he yelled out design, I went to way back to a workshop. I learned one thing at that workshop, and that made it worthwhile. When the artist, maestro, mentor said that shadows have less detail than the light area. And he said, if the shadow is the majority and there's just a little bit of light, then the shadow has the detail, and you take out a little of the detail in the light area, little parts of the light area. So in other words, you should not put the same detail in shadow as in light. That's with faces, that's with anything. So I feel if somebody learned one thing here, maybe the scales on the piano or something, if somebody learned one thing, then I'm happy. I am really happy because I love artists. I love the mind of an artist. I love the way artists say, that's what I'm going to do and be. And to me, I can't think of anything else on planet Earth that I would rather be than what it has everything we want. In fact, if you're a pianist and you make one mistake on the concert stage, then boo. In art, you can fix it up. If you do something wrong, you can fix it as I did here. Art is also, you're with yourself. You're bringing yourself out in many ways, visual. You're being kind to yourself, your mind. All of my art friends, the vast majority of them, the older ones, lived into their late 90s and their brain was still cooking. Their brain cells were always active. So if you're out there and you do art, you are not only inspired, you're not only inspiring yourself, but you're always going to be, your mind is always going to be working.
I think that is great advice, Harley. Thank you so much. What I want to do is just go through and reiterate what the essential truths are. Again, we have rely on the subject. There are universal principles you want to follow. The illusion of depth is so important. Accuracy is important. Get it right at the start so you don't fight it later. Understand edges. There is value in value. Stay excited. Have a right attitude about it. Don't beat up on yourself. And don't paint for others. These are all very, very valuable. And I love people to put into the chat what they think they learned. Harley, we're excited about having you on Pastel Live. We got so much more than we expected today. You are a showman. I think we need to have you go out by playing the piano one more time for us. Would you do that?
Ooh, what am I going to do?
And he hasn't played in 50 years. Are you kidding? Well, thanks again to Harley Brown. That piano was completely unexpected. So was him drawing out a portrait or beginning a portrait. So that was pretty cool. Thank you, Harley, and thank you, everyone. Now let's go right to the Art Marketing Minute.
This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
Remind you guys to send me your questions at eric@artmarketing.com, or you can go live if you want to. Just let us know if you'd like to do that, and we'll let you do it. The first question comes from Neil Patrick McMillan. Question is, how can artists craft a compelling artist statement and build a strong brand that reflects their unique perspective and artistic identity? Wow, that's a tough question. You know, I've never really completely understood this artist statement thing. I hear a lot of artists ask me, what should my artist statement be? I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if galleries are asking for it or if you think it's something you need to have on your website. You know, I suppose, and I've seen artist statements on websites, and it's like, well, why? Why bother? You know, it's you know, does anybody really care? Sorry, I know you do, but you know, do consumers really care? I think the question is, why do you do it? What's the purpose of doing it? And I would say, if you're going to do it, then make it, you know, I've seen some that have a lot of platitudes in them and they're just kind of overly flowery. Look, just talk about what you do and why you do it. What is it that makes you unique and why you do it, right? Because that's differentiation, right? So Neil Patrick McMillan, I don't know what you paint, but let's say you say, hey, I'm a realist painter in the tradition of the 19th century painters, focused on making paintings that kind of harken back to those days. And I fell in love with the great masters. And so I want to interpret their style, but I want to do it in my modern way. I mean, that's really what, and by the way, I wouldn't create a special page to say that. I'd have that right there at the top of your website that says, this is what I do. Because you want people to be able to assimilate very quickly. You know, what is this website? What am I going to see here? And make sure, of course, everything kind of falls into that. Now, also, you're talking about branding. And I don't know, you know, slogans. I love slogans, but slogans don't always work in branding. And sometimes, especially for artists, a slogan, you know, Thomas Kincaid did Painter of Light. That worked. And, you know, you see people doing that kind of thing, painter of this, painter of that, you know, but I don't know if that's really all that necessary. Your brand is you. You are your brand, and your brand is your attitude, your life, your lifestyle, and, you know, what you're posting on social media about your life. And, you know, if you're doing a lot of plein air painting and it's a romantic life and you're out painting the world, then that becomes part of your brand. But really, your brand is your paintings, right? Your paintings need to be consistent. They need to reinforce what you do, what you believe in. If it's a style, you know, you're a modern impressionist, or, you know, you're a you know, hearkening to the past, you know, the you know, Rembrandt style or something, whatever it is, reinforce that. You know, having a slogan like "Have it your way," like McDonald's or something, isn't necessarily going to do it. What does do it is reinforcing your work. Just and branding is I mean, we talk about branding all the time, and branding is just, it's who you are, right? And you've got to be who you are. You can't make up who you're not. I mean, people are going to know. I mean, I would think so anyway. So just be who you are and just reinforce that. And you just have to be constantly talking about it, constantly telling your story, constantly letting people see your work, constantly promoting yourself, advertising, looking for ways to get visibility. I mean, that's what branding is really all about. It's taking your message and exposing it over and over and over and over and again for the rest of your life, right? It never stops. Next question from Janet Hall. I don't know where Janet's from, but let's see what the question is. Says, I'm not even sure how or where to make prints of my art, which paper to use. How do I do that? Let alone marketing. So I get so overwhelmed because I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin because I don't know what I don't know, if you get my drift. Thanks for letting me ask questions that are probably obvious to everyone else. Well, Janet, I don't want to disappoint you, but I can't answer questions about that because I don't know the answers. I don't know how to tell you where to get your prints made. I know what a lot of people do. I know what a lot of artists will go out and they'll buy a good printer, an Epson printer or Canon printer, and they'll depending on the size prints they want. Those are the two standards. And then you buy different kinds of paper. You can buy watercolor paper or print paper or photographic paper. There's a lot of different options. And then you mount them and do all that stuff. And you can find somebody who can teach you that. I'm not probably best to do it. The question I would have is that what you want to do? Is prints is marketing prints what you want to do? And if so, the real question is, if you have them, how are you going to sell them? Where are you going to expose them? Where are you going to put them? Are you going to do tent shows where you're art shows where everybody's got a tent and people are walking up down the street? Are you going to put them on a website? Are you going to put them in a gallery? All those things matter. So you need to figure that out first, because that's probably more important, because you can make the prints once you figure out how you're going to sell them. And I would test it, because you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of expensive stuff and spend a lot of money making prints if they don't sell. So you got to figure out how to do that. I would say, though, really what I think you're asking is, where do I begin, right? Some basics. First off, when you're first starting out, you don't know what to do, read some books. There are lots of great books on art business and art marketing. I wrote one. I don't know if it's great or not, but I tried to make it great. Anyway, dip your toe in the water, right? And what I mean by that is, find out first if you're ready. Get some feedback from somebody who knows, somebody who's a professional. Might be some other artists, might be some gallery people. Try to get them to give you some feedback. Am I ready? What do I need to fix? Don't tell me all the positives, just tell me all the negatives. What do I need to fix? And if you're ready, they'll tell you. I had a lot of years where I wasn't ready, and I thought I was ready, and all my friends told me I was ready, but the pros didn't. Now the pros say, hey, you're ready. Okay, so now I'm ready. Now then the next question is, how are you going to get yourself out there? What are you going to do? How you put yourself out there? Well, I would say dip your toe in the water of selling something. All right. And so what does that look like? Well, it might be doing an art show. It might be putting your stuff up at a restaurant or local gym, or, I like restaurants because there's alcohol involved and people get a little bit looser and a little bit more open to art than they might be when they're in a busy, work mode or workout mode or something like that. So find somebody to do a show, and then, sit through there and see what it's like, and see if you like it, see if that's the way you want to sell. Maybe you're going to find a gallery or something, when you're first starting out, less likely, but it depends on how good you are. And you're of course going to have to talk to some galleries to talk to them into it. And I've got a whole chapter on that in my book. But most important is, don't spend a lot of money yet till you get a feel for things. Test everything, try everything. One answer does not apply to all. You just got to see what works. And trying to sell some artwork and see if you get some response is a really good way to go. Anyway, I hope this helps. These are quick, but that's why it's the Art Marketing Minute. All right.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.
Thanks again for listening to the Plein Air podcast and for the Art Marketing Minute. I hope these things are helpful. A reminder, Pastel Live is coming up. Get signed up, pastellive.com. PACE, Plein Air Convention. Go. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. Lake Tahoe. Fall Color Week. Well, you know where to look, fallcolorweek.com. And then, of course, get your magazine at pleinairmagazine.com. I have a blog on Sunday mornings called Sunday Coffee. I talk about work and life, and I think it's got bigger readership than anything else I do, which means it's pretty big. Also, on the air daily on Facebook and YouTube, my show is called Art School Live. I have hundreds of artists visit and teach and demonstrate, and I'm there every noon Eastern, weekdays. Subscribe on YouTube. Just go to Art School Live on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Also, there's a little bell that'll notify you when we go live. And please give me a follow, Eric Rhoads, on Instagram and Facebook. All right, that's me, Eric Rhoads, publisher, fine art connoisseur, Plein Air Magazine, and Plein Air painter, especially this summer. Thank you for your time today, and have a really great time. Thanks again to Harley Brown. It was fabulous. Remember, we want to hear from you who you want to have on the podcast. And so make sure you send me an email, Eric at pleinairmagazine.com. Now remember, it's a big world out there, so go paint. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
This has been the Plein Air Podcast with Plein Air Magazine's Eric Rhoads. You can help spread the word about plein air painting by sharing this podcast with your friends. And you can leave a review or subscribe on iTunes so it comes to you every week. And you can even reach Eric by email, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Be sure to pick up our free ebook, 240 plein air painting tips by some of America's top painters. It's free at pleinairtips.com. Tune in next week for more great interviews. Thanks for listening.